that you've done. I wanted to get to, before we talk about Caleb, I want to talk about you and Rome Odunze because you are very high on Rome Odunze. Why is that the case?
Well, it's funny because every year I pick a team about this time of year that I don't know much about and decide to follow. And last year, because I had adopted a husky, I was like, well, I'm gonna go with Washington this year because they're the Huskies. Why not? Like, there's no, I don't, I just try to expand my knowledge of all these different teams. I'm very familiar with Big Ten football, of course, and then a lot of the more major programs. Anyways, long story short, I picked Washington. So I was watching Rome Odunze all last season and then charting him as I do with all of the prospects. But I just kind of fell in love with the way he plays. I love the contested catches. I kind of love his attitude. I liked what the swagger you saw on the field. I just thought he was like a really fun watch. And while I do everything in an unbiased way when it comes to like evaluating players, you do kind of tend to like things more than others. So I really enjoyed watching Rome Odunze all last season, in addition to thinking that he was a very, very talented and very, very helpful receiver on the field at this next level.
Well, it's obviously something that every rookie quarterback is going to need, and it appears the two have already become fast friends, and that he and Caleb Williams knew each other even before both ended up being Chicago Bears. Now that you have had an opportunity to sit down with Ryan Poles and hear him extolling the virtues of so many of these guys, what did you come away thinking about Poles?
Well, it's funny because I actually went to college with Ryan Poles. We both were
Oh, it's
BC grads.
BC, right.
Yeah, he was there when I was there, and I've always known how I remember him as this like very quiet, cerebral, very like when he said something, it was brilliant. He wasn't like an over talker ever. So it's funny because that is still his personality today, but he's really, really good at explaining exactly what he's looking for in a player and why. Like he does why so, so, so well. It's interesting, as we evolve as like humans. I'm not gonna say like, me and Ryan were both must be 10 when we were in college because 20 years ago when we knew each other, you watch yourself kind of grow up and you're like, wow, I hope I can explain things as well as he does and have evolved a way that he has because it's really impressive. So, that's an interesting backdrop because what he says is exactly like he distills it in such an interesting way that I can understand now why his scouts really get a good feel for exactly what they're looking for because he's does such a good job of saying what it means, right? Like what's a waist bender mean to someone, right? Like you're looking for an offensive lineman that's not one in the top 9 picks, right? Like what does a waist bender mean to you and what doesn't it? So getting on that same lexicon is huge.
What made you decide to do this series? Because it's a very interesting idea, and the idea of being able to do tape with a general manager or a coach or a player is a very cool thing.
Yeah, I feel grateful for the GMs that have been so gracious with their time to let me do this. This is so much fun. It's our second year of doing it. Ultimately, I wanted to take the best time of the year in football, which is the hopeful time right after the draft when every team feels like the Super Bowl could be theirs, or at least it's closer to being theirs than it was a few months back. And I wanted to kind of bring that to fans because watching with Ryan Poles is something I can imagine every Bears fan would love to be able to do. And that's why I wanted to kind of bring that to the forefront of what's possible. I did with Les Snead, Joe Shane, like all these people who were just curious how it might feel to be in a room with them with the cowboy clicker. That's the thing that like makes the film go back and forth and kind of see what they're seeing through their eyes. I think it's important because now we kind of get a good sense of like, you may not, we do know, we know a little something about Caleb Williams. We know a little something about Rome Odunze, but some of these guys in the later rounds, like, why did you pick this particular guy? How did you even find that particular guy, etc.?
I've been trying to remain mindful of larger Bears context, as crazy as it's been here, to go from what are they going to do with Justin Fields? Oh my God, they're trading Justin Fields. Is that all they got for Justin Fields? And now are they going to take Caleb Williams? And everything, it's just been this breathless coverage. And we finally have time to step back, say, all right, let's regroup. And when I come back and look at it, I see the Bears of all teams who have had a terrible track record of developing quarterbacks, not only pick what they believe could be a transformational quarterback number one, they're trying to win right now with a rookie quarterback. So a lot of what I've built up covering the team and observing the team over the years doesn't really apply right now. And I guess half of it is this leap of faith, just this trust that they know what they're doing. But my God, the balls to do something like this is pretty remarkable.
I think that it shows you that coach and GM are on the same page. And that's usually when you see the best amount of success. I mean, look where Ryan Poles came from. Is there a coach and GM that's in better lockstep than Brett Veach and Andy Reid? I'm not sure. So if that's where you grew up, then that's what you saw and that's how you were trained. Perhaps that's a really good way to kind of get into this. It also shows me that they have some ideas about, the modern way that all of these things piece together. I mean, this time last year, we would not have been talking about the Texans as a potential playoff team. And look where they ended up. And they had, two really impactful rookies that they picked both in the top, 3 picks, right? So between CJ Stroud and Will Anderson Jr. So things can change fast in this league, but also making good use of your salary cap around some of these more favorable, contracts at the quarterback or wide receiver or, pass rusher position in the case of the Texans. That is the absolute key to making it all fit together.
When you were sitting there discussing the Bears overall with Poles, and look, we've talked about Caleb, we talked about Rome. You went through the entire rookie class, which is smaller because they didn't have as many picks. What stood out to you about the other guys that they drafted that he said?
The fact that they were thinking about not 100% starter snaps, right? Like, let's think about depth. Let's think about how these new rules with kickoff could potentially impact the 53-man roster. Thinking about the inevitable fact that during the course of the season, unfortunately, the team does not stay 100% healthy, and thinking through how each one of those conditions could be met and best succeed, set up to succeed through both free agency and through the draft together. Adding depth in positions of need, even picking a skill player. Like, some people would think if you only have 5 picks, like, someone who uses their foot on the ball, maybe not one that you would pick, but the importance of special teams and how you want that 53 to be constructed, it was well thought through way in advance. So it's not like you're making this decision of like, this guy's available or that. It's not like when you do your fantasy football draft and you're like, maybe I should, who cares? I'll just take this guy, right? It's very, very, very well thought through.
I want to ask you a little bit about Numbers Game, Cynthia, your proprietary data analytics model, because people may not know that you actually came up as a data analyst before you entered the world of football. Where do we stand in large part on these kinds of things? Is this something that you create, you put your stamp on it, you build it out as a brand, and then look to sell it to teams directly? Do you own it outright? Do you lease it to NFL Network? How does it work?
I own it outright. I went to Northwestern, by the way, so that's where my data science degree comes from. Same with my MBA, which was good old Chicago roots right there. But I own it all myself at this point. I own it for football, and I spent a lot of time on golf as well, because a lot of it is using computer vision, which is green and white, which, works really well, like green background, white thing moving, or white lines on the field. This is how it makes it easy for both football and for golf. And ultimately, I'm evolving it, right, as we go over time. My current role, the NFL Network gets a chance to use it, so they, it's part of my contract. But teams use it too. When I do consulting gigs for teams, we create a model for them, which is all it is what do you want to know? How do you want to put it together? We often hear at the end of football games, oh, the analytics say to go for it on 4th down, which is my personal pet peeve, because my analytics could say that and ESPN's could say something different, and likely does. And the Bears say something and the Lions say something different. So ultimately, it's really what it should be is a reflection of it's June, or actually it's July now. It's July. We're calm. This is my best decision. It's 3rd and 7. What decision on play calling would I make when I'm super calm? Just so that I now know how to measure that against what I would do in November. The team is, 4 and 3, and it's not going how we thought. What should I get your emotions out of it and be a tool in the tool belt.